You're listening to A Slice of Therapy with me, Alun Parry. So in today's episode, what I'd like to talk about is choice. Now, there are certainly situations where we get too much choice and find it overwhelming. And so, like anything, you can get too much of this. But what I want to look at today is where choice is actually beneficial to us. And there are three different things I'm going to look at. The first is how choice can be really motivating, can get us going, get us doing things that we otherwise might not do. Real energizing effect of choice. The second thing I want to look at is how choice makes us happier. And then the final thing I want to look at is something called the placebo of choice. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the motivating power of choice. Now, in terms of the motivating power of choice, one example is something that happened with British Telecom. Now, British Telecom is a telephone company that was responsible for all our landlines going back in the day. We all have mobiles now, don't we? And there's few of us who have landlines left, I suppose. But landlines were big business, and what British Telecom did is they developed an innovation. And some of you might remember this, is where they first invented things like call waiting. So you could be on one call and you'd get a little notice that told you that another call was waiting. Now, in terms of the advertising company that were brought in order to kind of send this out to British Telecom's customers to see if they would upgrade and get this call waiting and the other features, what they wanted to do was give them a choice. They wanted to send out the letter and say, look, you can get this by either ringing this number or you can write to this address. Just fill in this form and send it back to this address. Now, British Telecom were naturally reluctant to have the post thing. They were saying, well, shouldn't we really be kind of helping people to use their phone more? And so they did an experiment. So one letter went out and said, in order to get this service, all you need to do is dial this number. The other letter said, if you want this service, all you have to do is fill in this form, pop it in an envelope, send it back to us. But the third letter that went out gave an option of both. It said, if you want this service, you can either telephone us on this number or you can just complete this form and send it back to us in the post. Now, the thing is that the one that was much more responded to was the one with the choice. It massively outdid the others in the test. I think they sent it to about 300,000 people each. And the one with the choice had a much greater return. And so you can see there the effect of choice motivates us. Had they have just said, phone us up, we'll give you the thing, it wouldn't have done anywhere near as well, and they wouldn't have got anywhere near the amount of sign-ups. And so you can see there how choice can kind of motivate us. It kind of interests us to do one or the other. Now, this feeds into the second thing I wanted to talk about, which is that choice makes us happier. I'm struck when I speak to my own clients, and of course we're in the middle of lockdown as I record this, so a lot of my clients will be working from home. And there's a split, some people like it and some people don't, but of those who like it, the reason why they like it is the amount of choice and autonomy it gives them over so much of their life. They can take a 10-minute break and get a shower. They can change whether they're going to have the heating on full or no heating on at all. All these kind of little choices that we have to compromise on in a workplace full of people, they now have complete control over. And it reminds me of studies that have been conducted into care homes. And so it's standard practice now in care homes to try and give as much choice as possible to the people who live there in order to give them autonomy and choice, because it's been shown that it makes us healthier and happier just to have choice. And so we've seen there, when we've got some simple choices, not overwhelming choices, but simple choices, you can have this or you can have that kind of thing, that in the first instance it was motivating, that British Telecom got more sign-ups. That secondly, we saw that it actually makes us feel better, as we've seen with those people who are enjoying working from home at the moment, and also the standard practice now in care homes as a result of studies done there. But the third thing I want to look at is, I suppose, what this episode is really about, which is, given that these things are energising and motivating and make us happier and healthier, perhaps we can enjoy the benefit of that through what you might call placebo choices. And the reason why these are important is because here I am talking about choice, but what if choice itself feels hard for you? What if you're a person, as many people are, who don't feel that comfortable asserting your needs? If your experience more typically is that you get taken along with the flow of what everybody else wants. And so you kind of become out of practice with choosing. And so what happens when you have to make a choice? Well, it feels scary. And this is where placebo choices are really good, because where we start to lose confidence in ourselves because we have lack of practice really at making choices, what happens is that we start to doubt our own ability. We start to doubt our own judgment. And so that in itself then makes us decide to choose even less. So even when we have the opportunity of choice, it feels hard and we shy away from it. So placebo choices are a good solution to that problem, because what it can do is it can get you back into the practice of choosing, which, whether you're finding it difficult to choose or not, we already know that some choice actually helps us. But it gets you back into the practice of choosing in a way which is safe. You see, a placebo choice is one where no matter which way you choose, you're going to get pretty much the same outcome. So I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I'm always fascinated by this thing. I always wonder, are there studies done into that? But I'll tell you what fascinates me, and which I think is a real good example of a placebo choice. Whenever I get biscuits from my mum, she always brings them in on a plate. I don't know why she does this, but she does. She presents them on a plate. And I then have the task of choosing which biscuit. Now, it may well be that all the biscuits are the same. There might be like 6 ginger nuts on a plate. And so I have to choose a ginger nut. But they're all the same, so you would think that I would pay no heed to this, that I would just pick anything and barely look at it. And yet what I notice myself doing is I'm peering over the ginger nuts, and my hand is kind of hovering in midair as I'm deciding which of these identical ginger nuts should I pick to be my biscuit. That is a great example of a placebo choice. I obviously feel a little bit better about the biscuit that I eventually eat through the fact that I've chosen it. And yet, they're all made in the factory, they're all standardised, and it wouldn't matter which ginger nut I have. And yet I hover over there and make a choice. So that's a great example of a placebo choice, because, whichever ginger nut I had ended up with would have been fine. Another good example of a placebo choice is where people offer you a choice between still and sparkling water. Now, if you like both still and sparkling water, Personally, I don't like sparkling water because I get a little mind trick where I'm expecting lemonade and I don't get it and I always feel disappointed. But in terms of what the water is for, hydrating you, still or sparkling, doesn't really matter, you'll get the same outcome. So here's my kind of invite, is to bring placebo choices into your life. And a placebo choice, remember, is where you'll give yourself two options, just the two, so you're not overwhelmed, and the outcome's going to be the same. So let me give you 3 different ideas, and I'm sure you can come up with some by yourself as well. So when I go for a walk, there's a particular route I often go through, and I come to this point where there's like a fork in the road, and I can either take the left fork, which kind of goes at sort of 10 o'clock, if you like, at that angle, or I could take the right road, which kind of goes at 2 o'clock. And then the road that I take after that is kind of in the middle of the two. So I either take the left road and turn right and then continue straight forward, or I'll take the right road and turn left and cross over and continue to go forward. So the actual length of the walk is exactly the same, whether I take the left street or the right street. And so this is an example of a placebo walk. It's a choice, and it just doesn't matter which street I go down. It's going to have the same effect. It's going to take the same amount of time. I'm going to end up in the same place. But I get a little bit of choice. So when you're going on your next journey, are there 2 routes that you could take which are going to end up with the same outcome? And if there are, maybe give yourself that choice. And the key thing here, you see, is it doesn't matter which one you choose. It only matters that you chose. Because 1, it'll make you a little bit happier. And secondly, it gets you back into the practice that you're a person who makes choice in the world. Another idea, which is kind of a silly idea really, but it's a great way to have a placebo choice. Every morning when you get up and you brush your teeth, it's natural, isn't it, that we have a toothbrush? How about buying an extra toothbrush and putting that in the place where your toothbrush goes? So every morning you can either choose to brush your teeth with your blue toothbrush or with your green toothbrush. And of course it doesn't matter which one you choose, but it matters that you give yourself the choice, because it gets you back into the practice of it. And also, you end up with this benefit effect that having a little bit of choice brings with it. Or maybe you've got, I don't know, a top. Maybe you think, I'm going to wear a white t-shirt tomorrow. And maybe you've got 2 white t-shirts, so you hang them both up before you go to bed. And then when you wake up in the morning, you've got a choice. It doesn't matter which t-shirt you're wearing, in fact, but you choose one. So these are just simple examples where you can give yourself a meaningless placebo choice that gets you into the practice again of making decisions, gets you into the practice of trusting your judgment, because none of these outcomes are bad outcomes, but also gives you that little boost that they found in studies of care homes, which has led them now to ensure that residents of care homes now get as much choice over as much parts of their lives as possible. And so let's have a recap. We first saw how choice can actually energise us. So we saw the British Telecom example, that where people were offered a choice, they were more motivated to sign up and get the call waiting. The second is the thing that we just saw, which choice actually makes us happier and healthier, which is why that's what they do in care homes now as a matter of course. And finally, we looked at this issue of placebo choices, especially, but not only if, but especially if you're maybe not used to asserting your own needs, and so you're not used to safely making choices. This is a great way to train yourself to safely make choices. And the whole point of a placebo, the whole definition of a placebo choice, is that you give yourself 2 options, and each of them end up at the same outcome. You know, there was a study done in New Zealand by a guy named Ronald Fisher, and he's a psychologist in New Zealand, and he did this big meta-study of a whole host of other studies into what makes us happy. And one of the things people think makes us happy, because we certainly strive for a lot, don't we, is money. You know, that wealth will make us happy. Well, it doesn't make us anywhere near as happy, according to Fisher's study, as choice does. And so as long as you're not overwhelming yourself with choice, there is a real benefit to it. And it's a great way to train yourself back into a place where you get confident and experienced and practiced with making choices safely once again. If you found this episode useful, please do share it so other people can get the benefits as well. If you'd like to work with me directly, I'm Alun Parry, and you can find more about me at liverpoolpsychotherapy.co.uk. And of course, you don't have to be local to me because I work online, so you can be based absolutely anywhere. And of course, please subscribe to the podcast as well, because it's absolutely free and it means that you'll never miss an episode again. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you again on the next one.